For almost 1,000 years, one fortress has stood as the beating heart of English history, a place of kings and queens, of prisoners and executions, of jewels, ghosts, and legends. This is the story of the Tower of London, a story that begins with conquest and never truly ends.
And before we start, if you are new to the channel, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you can get our videos as soon as they're released.
Our story begins in 1066 with William the Conqueror. After his victory at the Battle of Hastings, William faced a challenge, ruling a hostile land. England's largest city, London, was powerful, wealthy, and proud. To control it, William needed more than soldiers. He needed a symbol, a visible, permanent reminder of Norman power. And so he ordered the construction of the Tower of London. At first, it was a simple wooden fort, but in 1078, William ordered something far grander, a massive stone keep, unlike anything the English had ever seen. This was the White Tower, the oldest and most famous part of the complex. Its thick walls, up to 15 feet at the base, were built from Kentish ragstone and pale cane limestone imported from Normandy. The tower rose nearly 90 feet into the air, dominating the London skyline, a message to every Englishman: the Normans were here to stay. The man in charge of construction was Gundulf, Bishop of Rochester, a skilled architect and monk. It took decades to complete, with laborers from both England and Normandy working side by side, many against their will. But when it was done, the tower was more than a fortress. It was a palace, treasury, prison, and administrative center all in one. Inside were royal apartments, storerooms, and a small chapel, St. John's Chapel, which still survives almost unchanged after 9 centuries. From its earliest days, the tower was designed not just for protection, but for intimidation.
Over the next few centuries, the tower evolved. Each king expanded it, adding new walls, moats, and towers until it became a complex of over a dozen towers covering 12 acres. Under Richard I, 1189 to 1199, the tower's defenses grew stronger. Richard's chancellor, William Longchamp, oversaw the construction of the first curtain wall around the White Tower and added a moat filled from the River Thames. This made the tower one of the earliest examples of a concentric castle, multiple rings of defense enclosing one another. The tower reached its full medieval form under Edward I, 1272 to 1307, one of England's greatest castle builders. Between 1275 and 1285, he added a second outer wall, widened the moat, and built many of the towers we still see today: the Bloody Tower, Wakefield Tower, Beauchamp Tower, and St. Thomas's Tower, which contained the infamous Traitor's Gate, the water entrance through which prisoners arrived by boat. Edward spent over £21,000 on these improvements, a staggering amount in medieval times. By then, the tower wasn't just a fortress. It was a royal palace, an armory, a mint, and a symbol of the king's authority. Throughout the Middle Ages, the tower was a royal home. Kings and queens stayed there before their coronations, spending their final night inside the walls before processing to Westminster Abbey. Lavish apartments were built for monarchs, complete with tapestries, fireplaces, and stained glass. The tower even had its own royal menagerie, one of Europe's earliest zoos. Exotic animals, lions, leopards, elephants, even a polar bear from Norway were kept here as symbols of royal power. The bear, according to records, was allowed to swim in the Thames to catch fish. And in 1299, King Edward I founded the Royal Mint inside the tower, producing England's coins for over 500 years. The tower was, quite literally, the center of the English monarchy. Despite its strength, the tower was not invincible. It was besieged several times during the Middle Ages. In 1191, while Richard I was away on crusade, his brother Prince John tried to seize power. His forces besieged the tower, but failed. During the First Barons' War in 1215, rebel nobles briefly captured it. And in 1381, during the Peasants' Revolt, rebels led by Wat Tyler broke into the tower, an unthinkable event. They found the young King Richard II inside, and in a shocking moment of violence, dragged the Archbishop of Canterbury from his chambers and executed him on Tower Hill. During the Wars of the Roses, 1455 to 1487, whoever controlled the tower controlled the throne. It was here, in 1483, that the young princes, Edward V and his brother Richard, disappeared forever. Their fate remains one of history's greatest mysteries. When the Tudors came to power, the tower's role changed again. It was no longer a royal home, it became a prison. And not just any prison, the most dreaded in England. The prisoners of power. The tower was reserved for high-ranking prisoners, nobles, royals, even queens. Their crimes were usually not theft or murder, but treason, the most dangerous accusation in a kingdom built on loyalty to the crown. Among the most famous prisoners were Anne Boleyn, 1536, Henry VIII's second wife. Once queen, she was accused of treason and adultery and executed on Tower Green by a French swordsman. Catherine Howard, 1542, Henry's fifth wife, only 19 when she was beheaded for infidelity. Lady Jane Grey, 1554, the 9 Days Queen, executed at 17. Her story remains one of England's most tragic. Sir Thomas More, 1535, Henry VIII's Lord Chancellor, executed for refusing to accept the king as head of the church. Thomas Cromwell, 1540, once Henry's most powerful advisor, executed when he fell from favor. Robert Devereux, Earl of Essex, 1601, once Queen Elizabeth I's favorite, executed after leading a failed rebellion. Executions were carried out either inside the tower, on the private lawn known as Tower Green, or publicly outside on Tower Hill. Tower Green was reserved for nobles and royalty. Only 7 people were ever executed there. By the 1600s, the tower had become a state prison, a place of interrogation, torture, and political imprisonment. The Gunpowder Plot. After the failed attempt to blow up Parliament, Guy Fawkes was brought to the tower. He was tortured on the rack, a brutal device that stretched the body until joints tore apart. His broken signature still survives, shaky and barely legible. During the English Civil War, 1642 to 1651, Parliament seized control of the tower, using it as an armory and prison for royalists. Even Archbishop William Laud, Charles I's advisor, was imprisoned here before his execution. Later, during the Restoration, the tower remained a prison for both political and religious offenders. One of the most daring escapes came in 1716, when Lord Nithsdale, a Scottish Jacobite, escaped in disguise, dressed as a woman, thanks to his wife's clever plan. And in 1671, the tower saw one of the strangest crimes in history. Colonel Thomas Blood attempted to steal the crown jewels. He flattened St. Edward's crown with a hammer to hide it under his cloak, but was caught before escaping. Remarkably,
King Charles II pardoned him and even gave him land in Ireland.
By the Georgian and Victorian eras, the tower's role as a prison faded. Kings no longer lived there. Instead, it became a military garrison, a storage depot, and, increasingly, a tourist attraction. The royal menagerie ended. By the early 1800s, the tower's zoo was overcrowded and dangerous. In 1835, all the animals were moved to the newly opened London Zoo, ending over 600 years of royal animal keeping. The last public beheading on Tower Hill occurred in 1747, when Simon Fraser, Lord Lovat, was executed for rebellion. Tens of thousands came to watch. During Queen Victoria's reign, the tower was restored and opened to the public. The crown jewels became its main attraction, and the yeoman warders, known as beefeaters, began guiding tours, a tradition that continues today. During both World Wars, the tower briefly returned to its darker past. In World War I, 11 German spies were executed by firing squad in the tower's grounds. Among them was Karl Hans Lodi, whose bravery even his captors respected. In World War II, the tower was bombed during the Blitz, suffering damage but surviving intact. The crown jewels were secretly moved to safety, hidden in Windsor Castle. The final execution at the tower took place in 1941. Joseph Jacobs, a German spy, was shot while seated in a chair, the last person ever executed in the tower. After the war, the tower was restored once again and opened to the public. In 1988, it became a UNESCO World Heritage Site, recognized for its global historical importance. Today, it attracts nearly 3 million visitors each year. Inside, visitors can explore the White Tower, the Crown Jewels, the Bloody Tower, and even exhibitions on torture and royal life. The tower remains a living part of British history, not just a museum, but a working community. The yeoman warders, all retired soldiers, still live inside with their families. They perform the nightly ceremony of the keys, a 700-year-old ritual where the tower gates are locked each night, precisely at 9:53 p.m. And of course, the ravens remain. Legend says that if the ravens ever leave, the tower and the kingdom will fall. Today, at least 6 are always kept, cared for by the Raven Master. No story of the tower is complete without its legends. They say Anne Boleyn's ghost walks the tower green, beheadless but calm. Lady Jane Grey appears on the anniversary of her death. The princes in the tower, 2 young boys, are seen holding hands in the corridors. And on stormy nights, some guards claim to hear screams echoing through the stones. Whether these tales are true or not, one thing is certain. The tower holds centuries of fear and memory within its walls. The crown jewels, housed in the tower since medieval times, remain one of the most extraordinary treasures in the world. They include crowns, scepters, swords, and the sovereign's orb, symbols of monarchy and faith. Among them is the Koh-i-Noor diamond, claimed by several nations, and the Cullinan diamond, the largest gem-quality diamond ever found. The jewels are guarded day and night, behind bomb-proof glass by armed guards. They are used in royal ceremonies to this day, including the coronation of King Charles III in 2023. Today, the Tower of London stands as one of Britain's greatest landmarks, a place where the past feels almost alive. From a fortress of fear to a national treasure, it tells the story of England itself. Its power, its cruelty, its resilience, and its endless fascination with the crown. For nearly 1,000 years, the tower has witnessed everything, from coronations to conspiracies, from executions to celebrations. It is more than stone and history, it is the soul of a Kilden. This is the Tower of London, where power, legend, and time itself still stand guard.